Yo, so I've been wanting to do a match for Naruto against an opponent that could match up and be a good fight. The problem with Naruto is that he's in a weird spot, right? So, however you want to scale people, generally their stats need to be somewhat similar. Naruto has a weird thing where he can literally multiply his DC and AP with shadow clones being extremely powerful, so it's hard to match someone with him that he doesn't just outright just body with shadow clones. But then he's also, as I have a whole video on, he's not as strong as you think, so it's hard to find a good opponent for him. Well, I know that Naruto versus Ichigo has always been a favorite battle for a lot of people. I know someone who follows my channel, thank you, it's Party Hobber, and he was wanting me to cover it because, of course, Death Battle covered it, and it's in a bunch of different forms, it's talked about a lot, and it wasn't the fight that I thought it would be. So, in this right here, what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to cover what Ichigo can do, but I'm not going to just then do Ichigo and then do the battle afterwards, because you already know that there will be no point after I cover this. So what I'll be doing is just covering Ichigo and how the fight would go in general, pretty much in the same video, just all in one take. If I'm talking a little different, it's because I'm just doing it off the cuff this time. But the important thing, hell, let's just get into it. So the thing, first off, is Ichigo actually does not have as much AP as Naruto. He does get outboxed in that regard, where Naruto could be casually throwing many, small country to lesser attacks repeatedly, no problem. And if he's in his absolute strongest form, he can with one attack throw out something that scales to about medium country level. That's really good. Ichigo, actually with feats, proper scaling, none of that wank bullcrap. Ichigo is less than that. He shows at the very end to consistently be about, I want to say, large island levels. Honestly, to be accurate, he's between large island and small country. He's not actually at small country, but he's taking out more than just Hawaii, for example. So I don't know how to really put that in good scaling terms, but that's about where he is in his AP, not his DC. Now, a quick thing about that is you need to understand that durability isn't, it's not like a stat where it's okay, Naruto has, say, country level durability. That doesn't mean it takes country level AP to start hurting them. What that means is, at least for me, understand when I'm saying country level durability, that means that country level AP is where they will feel it. They'll reel back, they'll be in some pain, you'll see signs in combat from that attack really hurting them. But if you want to try and convince me that Naruto unguarded could just take even an island buster to the face repeatedly, he could just sleep on those attacks and he wouldn't be getting hurt, this isn't a video game, right? Your defense stat gets so high that now you're just seeing zeros pop over your head. People tend to take damage. Now that can be the case. There can be people who show feats, but I would want feats of them taking attacks of this level, no damage, where it doesn't even bother them. I'm not talking about overpowering it. I'm talking about actually taking the hit. This is your durability. So here's the other problem, is Ichigo kinda stomps Naruto. It's actually not close. Yes, Death Battle got it really, really wrong. And a lot of it comes down to a lot of different statements, of course. Hyperbolic statements, which, shoot, Bleach has got plenty too. But not as bad as Naruto. And I feel like that's what separated the two for Death Battle and some other people. But while Ichigo doesn't have as much AP as Naruto, and Naruto has shadow clones, that is honestly about it. The invisible thing and the, I can sense limbo clones, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Ichigo is way faster. Way faster. It's not even close. For any of you, when you think about when you're in a dream and someone's chasing you and you're moving super slow motion, that's Naruto to Ichigo. It's the speed gulf between them is pretty massive, honestly. And we have people that he scales to or above that is just absolutely massively above Naruto characters. It's not even fair. Ultimately, Naruto wouldn't ever tag Ichigo. And with the Shadow Clones, I'm not sure they still would ever tag Ichigo. Maybe if like he Shadow Clones like hundreds of himself and they just go for giant DC AoE explosions, hoping that the AoE, I don't know, like it's not like the AP is actually, you know, focused on him. That's the whole point of the AP. Like, is just the little aftershocks, like the non-direct hit, am I supposed to believe like that's gonna hurt him enough? Honestly, Naruto's gonna be eating like just swing after swing to the throat like it's nothing. He's gonna be eating them like it's no contest. And here's another problem, is that he's not just faster. Everything I'm talking about is also scaling to just true Shikai Ichigo. Wanted to be understood, we never really got to see Ichigo at his full Bankai power. So everything I'm talking about is just his true Shikai levels. Because, and honestly, we know through Aizen and everything, Dangai Ichigo is pretty much at the level of true Shikai Ichigo. And even then, like, even though because he lost his powers, he never like vastly like empowers himself above Dangai Ichigo levels of power, that was still enough, to be honest, just off of speed. But let me, I can cover some of these feats here. I mean, I'll probably be showing them earlier, but I'll cover them again. So, for example, we have Ichibei, where with his palm strike here, I forget the actual name of it, he's knocking Wash. How do you pronounce that? Walk? I'm gonna say Watch. Well, he knocks him about 2,439 miles away and appears next to him within a single frame. Now, a single frame, that's not a time frame. That's not, you know, when I say frame, it's the next panel. The very next panel. That's not a time frame, so we can't actually say a specific speed. But these people are way, way, way faster. You know, this is towards the end of the series, than some of the already calced speed feats that put them rivaling Naruto speed feats. So generally you can lowball this to like 1 second. He's gonna cover this distance in 1 second. So we're talking about like 2,439 miles in about a second. We have, for power, we have Kenpachi's meteor feat, where unlike that Susanoo cutting through a single meteor, and it was a big meteor too, don't get me wrong. Kenpachi's meteor feat, this was just Shikai Kenpachi. Okay, he had his eye patch on still. He didn't just cut through it, he busted that thing apart, like, all throughout. The kinetic force of his sword absolutely obliterated. He didn't just slice through, he obliterated the entirety of that meteor. And what's more is, he didn't do it with a sword that was the size of frickin' Susanoo's sword, right? Potency. Alright, we know that, for example, force is mass times acceleration. Now, acceleration can be kind of wonky with mangas, but we know that mass is objectively a multiplier. It's generally mass times multiplied by acceleration. And so, Kenpachi, with the mass of his Shikai sword, did more force and damage many times over, obliterating the entirety of a meteor, than the mass that Sasuke's Susanoo sword had. The potency of Kenpachi's strike is, I mean, the multipliers alone are ridiculous. Now, Susanoo's sword isn't, you know, their strongest attacks, right? It's strong as hell in Naruto's world, but even Shikai Kenpachi could be throwing that around like every normal strike. Many, potency-wise, hundreds of times more potent. Hundreds. Which is why it takes some of their best attacks to outdo Bleach's, you know, attack potency. Which is also why I know Naruto's not just gonna be like sleeping for 8 hours with Sasuke's Susanoo sword, like just coming down on him like he's just sleeping through it like it does no damage. That's not how durability is. He'd be getting knocked around, he'd be getting hurt. Shikai Kenpachi is like hundreds of that. And, you know, Naruto guarding would be able to be taking that and stuff. He could box with that, that's fine. The problem is that, like, Ichigo outscales that, and Naruto's not guarding that. He's just not fast enough. I mean, okay, so now I'll dip back into speed again. We got light rays traveling from, like, you walk? I still don't know. Coming down, of course, to take the powers from the Quincy's. Now, you know how I am with light rays, just saying it's the light speed. But even if you don't take it at the speed of light, because even if you do, let's get something straight here. Maybe I need to cover a Bleach isn't as strong as you think, but I'm not wanting to do this right here. I'm just wanting to set this straight that Bleach, you know, Ichigo kind of stomps Naruto. It's just true. You can go forward with this video knowing that, yeah, Ichigo stomps Naruto. Alright, even if you take them at the speed of light, these characters that, like, pseudo-dodged it, they're not moving, as I've said many times before, they are not moving, you know, they're not, like, racing the speed of light here, right? Like, they're not, if speed is distance divided by time, they are not covering a distance equal to that light in the same amount of time, not even close, they're fractions, even if it is the speed of light. But even if you say they're not the speed of light, and I'm actually kind of partial to them being the speed of light, actually, because there's a lot of different Bleach factors, a lot of different times where they specifically go over and over again how it functions as light, and other characters talking about shadows and, you know, taking away shadows. But if I was hard pressed, I still wouldn't give them full light, just light-esque properties. But that's because I want full accuracy. Anything that I say or claim, I want it to be based in truth. It's minimum gonna be X speed. I'm not gonna say that that minimum is light speed, but the minimum that it is, from its traveling distance all the way down to those Quincy's, is astronomical distance in a astronomically short amount of time. Now, we don't know the actual speed, okay? Anyone who wants to calc and say, oh, here's the actual speed, is either making a bold just assumption that, yes, oh, it says light, therefore it is light speed, when it could just be light properties. We don't know how like, natural light doesn't function like this. So anyways, I'm gonna stop with the natural light versus light magic, so to speak. But we do know that the distance it covered and the amount of time it did, I mean, obliterates any Naruto feat, except for, like, Toneri's beam, which I covered before, that isn't nearly as impressive for Naruto as people like to think. Well, then you have people like Mimi Hagi here, who does the same thing as an actual, like, being, right? As an actual, like, combatant, so to speak. And that's actual, like, raw movement speed. People actually scale to Mimi Hagi. Mimi Hagi scales to those so-called light rays, okay? This isn't like, those Quincy's, they weren't even close to the speed. Mimi Hagi was. Mimi Hagi absolutely scales to this. And Rock, he scales to Mimi Hagi. He actually was easily able to handle his speed at close distance. So that speed actually goes to Ichigo as well, because they all are pretty relative to each other at the end. Rock was mostly a lot of hacks, not like raw stats, in terms of why he was such a threat. But his speed, Bleach speed, is pretty well shown that Naruto stands no chance. I mean, there's also, like, Ichigo getting to Sedate, you know, within, like, the 9 hours 15 seconds, or, yeah, 9 hours 15 minutes, I mean. That is also another feat, because it was supposed to take a week for normal Shinpo. That one is the weakest. I'm bringing it up last just because it's kind of, like, thrown by the wayside. The other ones are really the hard truths. But even that kind of beats the hell. I mean, if we're talking about, like, time frames, if we want to compare, I know I said it was, like, an outlier, but it just goes to show, like, Naruto's, like, 5 seconds to pain, and then you have, like, Ichigo, like, oh yeah, I can travel a week's distance in 9 hours. It's just not even close. Now, okay, so back to some of the AP, because you gotta understand where I'm coming from with why his AP is, although it's lower than Naruto's, it's not much lower, because, let's get something straight, Kenpachi's Meteor Feat already puts him at, like, a high end for, like, Naruto. And then Kenpachi, hell, he gets a Bankai, right? So with people of that level of power, they're already throwing out moves that are, like, except for the highest of jutsus, they're matching them. And you can go back, alright, so for another example, Dangai Ichigo, he destroys the mountain against Aizen with the air pressure of his sword in a clash. This is, once again, his sword is just it's just the mass of like a tiny little sword compared to Susanoo's sword. And this is also more applicable because this is another feat that Susanoo did, where it chopped off the tops of multiple mountains with the air pressure of its swing. Ichigo does the same. Now, the mountain he does this to is smaller, I will grant that. It's not like it's a pretty small mountain. But, albeit the case, and yes, it was one mountain too, a smaller singular mountain in mass of what's being destroyed is far less than the mass difference of Ichigo's sword and Susanoo's sword. The AP is still in Dangai Ichigo's favor by a long shot, actually. The difference is massive. Again, he loses his power afterwards, and this scales up to true Shikai, so, this all is relative. There's also, what also should be known is, like, true Shikai Ichigo, because he's relative to Dangai Ichigo. And you know what, let me actually hit that real quick. So Aizen, of course, he goes into Monster Aizen form. He actually retains a lot of his powers, even while restrained and obviously not at the exact same level he was when he was in Monster Aizen form or Butterfly Aizen form. He was still massively powerful. He still held on to a lot of his power, and he was able to body all of these end of series people. So don't tell me like Dangai Ichigo isn't around true Shikai Ichigo level, like as if true Shikai is like vastly stronger and you want me to scale that to be some obscene stats or something. They're pretty relative. But what this also shows is Dangai Ichigo, of course, his arm got burned up by one of those fraggers that Monster Aizen sent out. What this means is that he did get damaged, but that fragger scales to be a little stronger than pretty much Ichigo's own like full contact slash. Again, say like unguarded. This is why, if Aizen wants to clash with his sword and the air pressure's doing that, sure, that's fine while he's still going at it. Ichigo was definitely just holding back. He didn't really seem to care. But that's why where unguarded comes in. Like, if you want me to believe that Aizen in that fight against that slash that the air pressure destroyed that mountain, if you want me to believe he could just like, stand there and be like, yeah, bro, just hit me with your best shot in the neck. I mean, he's not taking that well. He's taking that much worse than Ichigo did with his arm. You say Ichigo guarded. I mean, you can, but guarded how? Because this isn't like a sword swing where the force is, concentrated necessarily in a single point where you can like divert that force or something. This was more so an explosion. We know that the force that did hit Ichigo, the amount of it that did, was of course frontal, in which case yes, he was guarding that, but his arm that guarded it and the explosion and how it works, he got damaged. Roundabout way of saying, if Naruto was to hit him, he would get hurt. He'd get hurt pretty bad. Assuming it's one of the, the harder ones. And if it's something that requires, force to be pinpointed in a single point where he can divert it or challenge it with his sword, then he'd be okay. He could guard that. Otherwise, he'd have to clash with, some of his own special techniques. Gensuke Tensho, of course, whatever he needs, because he can't let Naruto's hits hit him. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty simple. There's not really much that he can do. I don't want to be rambling too much, but I mean, hopefully, I'm mostly giving myself time to be showing you a lot of different feats. I want to be really showing you exactly at what level it is. I have other scans, I'll also throughout here, I'll show some scans that also show why, like, he'd be really hurt. That Bleach, I'll throw in some of the scans I would use for, like, Bleach isn't as strong as you think. A lot of people think that Walk is, like, multi-planet level when that's just obscenely incorrect. He was going to destroy so-called multiple worlds via, like, a balancing effect. The Soul King is a balance to the worlds, and that by disrupting that they would fall apart off of, it's like if there's a giant machine with cogs running through it, where if a cog is removed, the whole machine gets, it falls apart. And it's like, say the machine with these cogs is like the size of a building. Like, just because I remove a cog doesn't mean I'm like this building machine level, AP or something. That's absurd. I don't know why people could possibly, mental gymnastics themselves to that. And lastly, I'll end with this. I personally, I read mangas. Alright, I'm a manga reader. I don't even bother with animes most of the time. That said, because of that, I really don't watch movies. I know most of them are non-canon, almost all of them. But I have heard that, like, Hellverse, I believe is what it's called, for Bleach is canon. I haven't seen it. Now, in that, I know people talk about, like, these chains being planetary or something. Ichigo stomps Naruto, that's not even factored in. I don't know what that is about, because, again, I personally haven't seen that. So I want to be fair about that. If in the future I'm bringing up Ichigo for something, I'm not talking about some Hellverse thing, alright? Most likely, it sounds like it would be an outlier because, I mean, just look up what an outlier is definition-wise if you need to, but that level of power is just hyper inconsistent with every other feat shown throughout all of the manga. So, I don't know, assuming that it really is supposed to be some planet-level feat, I don't know. But, that said, yeah, this was more of a stomp than I was liking, but I was running out of time trying to do other various things. But I wanted to get this done and covered, and hopefully, hopefully you still like the video. Again, probably not the battle that you were wanting, because there's nothing to really dive into. It's like, you want me to cover, like, oh man, Naruto could do this to counter this. There is no countering it. He's too fast. But, going on from here, in the future, I'll be trying to find other opponents that might be good opponents for Ichigo and Naruto. But until then, my next video, I'm wanting to cover something that I know literally everything about. There are some easy videos for myself, make some easy ones, and hopefully I can throw out more often because of this. I'm gonna be covering some Yu Hakusho, power scale some of them, and it's a series that, I mean, plenty of people know. Some people call it a GOAT anime. I know I consider it a GOAT anime. It's one of my favorites, just off of no filler alone. Dang, talking about Naruto and Bleach, no filler, it's the best. But I know Yu Hakusho, I mean, like the absolute just back of my hand. So that should be fun, and I can give really good accurate scaling and feats off that. And that'll be the next video, so look forward to those. And with that, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and look forward to more videos. Ciao.